I'm still here. That's how I started my day every day, lying in bed, slowly coming to consciousness. I would look up at the ceiling and say, fuck, I'm still here. My nighttime ritual consisted, like many, of prayer. God, please take me in my sleep. This is a journey that I am going through called Biotoxin Illness, otherwise known as CIRS, Chronic Inflammatory Response Syndrome. Although I believe that this started during my early childhood years through exposure to mold in the various family homes, old school buildings, all while having what I thought was a normal upbringing with a schizophrenic stepfather, filled by chronic stress, mental, physical, and sexual abuse. Little did I know that it would not be until I bought my dream property in the country in my mid-30s that I would truly come to believe that the devil was real and God had forsaken me. Sure, advanced stage melanoma cancer was daunting, and panic and anxiety attacks were as regular as the days on a calendar, of which both of these had me begging on my knees. But it was mold and biotoxin illness that took me to the dark night of the soul and back again. Now at 30, the other side of failed marriages, bankruptcy, and a high-pressure executive career, I had just returned back to Canada from the Hippocrates Health Institute in West Palm Beach, Florida, where I had beat back cancer, lost 80 pounds, and found the most energy of my entire life. I would literally spring out of bed and go after the day. An A-type personality, chain maker entrepreneur, I was on a mission to solve the world. Hell, I just told cancer to fuck off, and life was just getting started. 18 months later, I was in the grips of severe panic and anxiety. This, of course, after a life-threatening pulmonary embolism 9 months earlier. The poster child side effects from warfarin had all but removed all the health gains I had just achieved. I recalled my bodybuilding days as a 270-pound steroid junkie and thought, maybe some steroids for cutting the fat would be good. It wasn't. The panic and anxiety attacks that started immediately after nearly killed me, and there seemed to be nowhere to turn. I tried multiple modalities, from the allopathic medicine to the natural medicine to the esoteric and fringe medicine. I recall a cold, crisp late November morning as my common-law wife was driving me to my regularly scheduled acupuncture appointment, and I expressed to her, if this doesn't turn around by December, I don't think I can do this anymore. I will commit suicide. I'm sorry. Hell, it had been 6 months already. Clearly, I'm a liar, because it didn't turn around. It only got worse. Like Bambi trying to walk on ice for the first time. The get it done change maker. Man, I once was gripped by agoraphobia, and I feared beyond my wildest imagination stepping outside my home. Sorry. Step by painstaking step, I was guided by my partner to the outside world again after many weeks. What now became one of my coping mechanisms for the panic and anxiety was to walk 4 to 5 hours daily, rain, snow, or shine, in the conservation area next to my house. I would repeat affirmations like, I am wealthy, I am healthy, and I would remember how it rhymed. I had a particular dream that I would own a property one day, just like this conservation area. The perfect home. 183 acres, multiple rivers and streams, a gorgeous 8 kilometers of trail through varying types of forest and rock and open fields. It was all kinds of incredible, and it took me on an amazing journey, seeing different animals and nature at its finest. I spent my first year investigating this incredible land, where I found reishi, chaga, and other healing mushrooms growing in abundance. Every medicinal herb one could feast upon grew in abundance. Hell, I had the pleasure of seeing the moon moth that comes out every 7 years for 7 days and dies. Boy, nature was beautiful. The hustle and bustle of the city now behind me, and now my newfound healing sanctuary is where I would overcome panic and anxiety. A very important welcome to the neighborhood message was that there were bears, coyotes, and wolves that roamed the property, and so it was necessary to be vigilant and aware of the dangers lurking in nature that might harm or kill you. Little did I know that one of the most harmful natural species that Mother Nature had put on this beautiful planet would be the journey that led me to beg for mercy from God to take my life every day. And that is mold. How serious is mold, you ask? In 2002, the U.S. International Trade Commission reported that according to one estimate, U.S. insurers paid over $3 billion in mold-related lawsuits, more than double the previous year's total. According to the Insurance Information Institute, in 2003, there were over 10,000 mold-related lawsuits pending in U.S. state courts. By 2004, many mold litigation settlements were for amounts well past $100,000. In 2005, the U.S. International Trade Commission reported that toxic mold showed signs of being the new asbestos in terms of claims paid. In 2012, a key appellate court in Manhattan found a consensus in the scientific literature for a causal relationship between the presence of mold and resultant illness. And if that were not enough, in 2003, The Tonight Show co-host Ed McMahon received $7.2 million from insurers and others to settle his lawsuit alleging that toxic mold in his Beverly Hills home made him and his wife ill and killed their dog. That same year, environmental activist Erin Brockovich received settlements of $430,000 from two parties, and an undisclosed amount from a third party to settle her lawsuit alleging toxic mold in her Agora Hills, California home. You would think in the great nations of Canada and the United States we would have the knowledge and information to tackle this type of illness. Ill-informed, overworked, often arrogant, insurance-controlled medical doctors trained to treat symptoms and not deep dive into the root causes and issues that lead so many common mold sickness misdiagnoses. Estimates are as high as 2 million people over a 3-year period are misdiagnosed with fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, multiple sclerosis, mental illnesses such as depression, anxiety, and stress, allergies, post-traumatic stress disorder, somatization, irritable bowel syndrome, and attention deficit disorder, just to name a few. I found myself in the emergency room at least once a week, only to leave with no diagnosis and no scientific data to validate the experiences that I was going through, with a total lack of direction and help, and only the best diagnosis that I could give, that they could give me, of "it's all in your head," left me racing towards any and every type of hope that I could find to become well. I versed myself and studied and dedicated every possible moment that I had when enough energy came my way to educate myself in natural medicine. This fortunately has proven to be very valuable for the many clients that I have continued to help over the years with other illnesses, unlike mine, because of the efforts and study that I undertook to become an integrative medicine practitioner. Despite my best efforts, I continue to this day to suffer with the affliction of biotoxin illness. I went as far as opening my own wellness store and clinic, helping many in the community that I lived in. Equally, I have tried every supplement and gimmick that I can think of on the planet. I most certainly have one of the greatest supplement graveyards in history. Perhaps the greater cost to people afflicted with biotoxin illness is the loss of desire to work, mental illness, inability to make commitments to anything in life, misunderstandings, loss of relationships, and a deepening pain and isolation. One of the greatest pains for me is to be told how good I look and be suffering so greatly inside. Oh man, I gotta work on this, huh? It's nearly 3.5 years ago that I found Dr. Richie Shoemaker, a medical doctor and researcher that discovered CIRS, and through his 20+ years of medical clinical research, found a medical-based solution to reversing the estimated 25% of the population with genetic anomalies leading to multi-system inflammatory disease. You may ask yourself, why did I not go to Dr. Shoemaker? One of the most difficult things with this affliction is the inability to clearly think and make decisions and commitments in order to get well. But the largest and most sad situation is the fact that no one in my country of Canada knows about CIRS or the medical protocol of Dr. Richie Shoemaker of survivingmold.com, leaving me with only a hope of being able to afford the high cost of medical outside of my country, where medical is a right and is covered. So I abandoned any hopes that I would be able to go to the United States and seek treatment. It's now 3.5 years later, and I have some improvement in my health through the tenacity and mental resilience and dedication to excellence in education and natural medicine that I continue to improve. Like a never-ending torture chamber, I returned to the work of Dr. Richie Shoemaker recently because I can no longer bear to suffer any longer. I found out that one Canadian medical doctor has been trained and certified to treat biotoxin illness. With a sense of hope, I reached out to this medical doctor in my country, and after a week of waiting with great anticipation, I was informed that I needed to expect $15,000 in tests and another $2,000 in time spent. This did not include a week of travel, stay, and food expenses, nor follow-up tests 3 months later, or the subsequent conversations in person 6 weeks later. With great despair and frustration, I reached out to Dr. Richie Shoemaker directly to express my disdain and disappointment with the fact that many of the sufferers of biotoxin illness would never be able to afford the price tag to become well. I could not understand how a system was so backwards that making money was far more important than curing patients. The angels that are Dr. Richie Shoemaker and his staff reached out to me, and although Dr. Shoemaker is in retirement, he has taken my case directly. I am still in a situation where I need to find the funds to do the testing and the protocol. I am also working at this time with a medical doctor in my country to see if this will be something that we can receive treatment for here in my own country and get my life back from the grips of this horrible and debilitating illness. I want my story to inspire you. If you know anyone who is afflicted with any of the misdiagnosed illnesses, who have or are suspected of being exposed to mold, then please share my story and have them write me at bstone@healtheducator.ca. It is my promise and commitment, as was the conversation I had with Dr. Richie Shoemaker, that is part of my completion of my PhD in natural medicine, that I will dedicate my life through the hard science that Dr. Shoemaker pioneered to helping others in my country and around the world by providing accessible and affordable treatment, guidance, and a voice to the medical community, the lobbyists, the insurance companies, real estate agents, and government policy makers. To leave you with a quote, "The diagnostic approach that assumes that previously made assumptions are correct is best described as ass-squared medicine." Richie Shoemaker, medical doctor. Thank you.